a little owl thing at our wolf advisory group meetings. It's quite a bit
Works
better.
pretty well.
It does.
You are being recorded and watched.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'd like to open the meeting. If we could all stand and say the allegiance. Your caps off, please. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, since we do have comments later on in regards to the proposed sale, I would venture to ask if there's comments for any other purpose that would like to be made now. 3 minutes, please.
Come on in.
Hearing none. I will ask if there's any comments from anyone who's on Zoom. Hearing none, we'll continue. Thank you. All right, we have approval of the minutes.
Oh, I thought the minutes looked good. Let me give you a chance to, yep.
Okay, if we can have a motion to approve the minutes as emailed to us.
So move. Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That goes down, please.
Yeah, all right, so the next item is the review of the monthly budget report and approve the vouchers.
So shall we start with the year end? Okay, 2022 year end report. Starting on the income side, just items of note, we are short of tax revenue in about the amount of about 50,000. Part of that is Columbia Pulp has still not paid taxes. So that just explanation of that. And then as far as the rental income, the spots where it looks like we're short, I need to explain industrial building number 2, which is our USDA building. That is my fault. There were 3 lease terms set out in the there's 3 amounts set out in the lease terms, and when I fixed the budget, I looked at the 3rd one instead of the 2nd one. So they were paying the right amount. I had the wrong amount on the budget.
Okay.
So I did it again this year. See, because I put the same account on, so my fault. So, but because their budgets are so far set ahead that the lease rates are all set. They were all set when we signed the lease in 2015. So they are not short. It was my budget error. And then industrial building number 6 is they paid on the last day of December. And so it was before we had made our December deposit. So they are paid. It just did not go in until January.
All right.
And industrial building or Blue Mountain Station building number 2, that's just the 2 months. No, it's actually only 1 month rent from the one tenant moving out. So just other than that, it was all pretty good, which is, you know, that's not always the case with business tenants. Sometimes you have shortages, so it's pretty good. Made extra money. The commercial kitchen did well with Mountain Station, so that was higher than budgeted. Bell Farm Crop was higher than budgeted. Anyway, so that's that. Do you have any questions on that side? Okay. And then expense side, it's as you know, it's some line items were way under budget and some line items were a little over, but we spent less than we took in for the year and ended the year in a really positive cash position. And that number balances, the starting balance for 2022 balances to the county's treasurer's report. So we are golden.
Good, thank you.
Okay, and then 2023, just our first month, a lot of bills this month. Some things that I would have liked to pay in December, we didn't get invoiced on time, so we had a that our payment to the Small Business Development Center happened this year. There were a couple of others. I can't remember what they were now. Oh, some advertising that I wanted to pay last year, but that's just the way it goes. And then income side, of course, is just partial, so it's only showing a little bit. So if you have any questions on that or on the list of vouchers that was presented?
No, there was a lot of them though.
There were, it was a lot of, it was an expensive month, I know.
Right.
We're paying, Pacific Core for make ready work on the poles and inspections for broadband. And then we have we pay for our sewer connection at Blue Mountain Station because that was a loan grant program. So that was a $10,000 bill that just once a year in January. Yeah, and then our Pacific Power bill, just regular utilities, it was high, the cold,
Mhm.
it was higher.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll send that down for signing. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, an update on the state audit.
Well, they have quizzed me about a lot of things. The COVID grants that we gave to small businesses, they asked for backup receipts they just did a random pick out of the list. I had to do a lot of accountability for that, but so far so good. They went through expenditures. It doesn't seem that they found anything to dig too deeply into. They dug very deeply into the Blue Mountain Station Building number 2 project, which was a small works project. I was the general to try to save us money. And I think it's all fine. We had all the contracts in place and all the quotes but he did say today that he wanted to know what our small works roster procedure was. And I said, well, there's a little bit in my delegation of authority, but that's really, what it says is we'll follow the RCWs. And he said, well, I suspect we'll be asking you to set out procedures. So in one of the policies I sent you, it had the federal procurement procedures that we put in the delegation of authority. So we may end up having to just do a whole separate procedures policy.
For state.
And we'll just put them both in.
Mhm.
Yeah, put them both in. So, yeah, so that's probably the only, it's not really like we did anything wrong. It's just make it more in writing, more codified, I guess. Yeah. So, but I haven't gotten a final report yet. These are just that's what I'm gleaning from the
Mhm.
poking and prodding and questioning. So,
All right, sounds good. They haven't found anything major, that's like.
oh, no, there's nothing major. It's just the constant.
Yes.
Tracy and I have
All right,
been digging deep.
okay. Any changes in leases?
We have no leases this month, no.
Okay. All right, so we come to the part of, on the agenda for the potential sale of lots U and V.
And it's not quite time for the hearing, but I had a little bit, I wanted to just do a little background. Is that
Okay,
okay if I do
sure,
that? And that'll lead us up
absolutely.
to the, okay. Hello, everyone. I wanted to just give a little bit of a timeline of working with the business on this project. I had a call today where somebody said it seemed really quick, and I thought, well, if you ask Sierra and Michelle and Cheyenne, they would not say it was quick. So the first contact the business I had was with Sierra, and it was August of 2020. I went back and looked through my emails. And after Sierra and I spoke, I referred her to the Small Business Development Center for assistance. We have we help support their office, and they support businesses in Columbia County free of charge. So Sierra and her family worked with Paul Bowen, and it was mostly about financial projections and market analysis and things that he has expertise in. And at the time, I also referred them to a grant writer, and I assisted. We had big weekly meetings, and the SBDC helped, and we helped Sierra and them submit a USDA grant for a slaughter facility, meat processing facility. And then on their own, let's see. And then at the time, that is when they were looking for sites for the land. And it really came down to a struggle to find land that had the right zoning, utilities, and was available. And that is why lots U and B in the industrial park became their first choice. The city of Dayton zoning code does allow meat processing as an outright permitted use in the fringe commercial zone. So like it or not, anything pretty much west of the Touchy River Bridge that isn't residential is zoned fringe commercial. So like where McQuarrie's Grocery is, that could be a meat processing facility. Okay, so then upon Michelle's request for purchase of the land, we had an appraisal completed in June of 2021. And I think concurrently, they also applied for a WSDA grant on their own in 2021. Is that the one that you received was WSDA? No?
No, so we applied actually for that USDA one
Uh-huh.
at the same time when we turned in the first one, because it only took a little bit.
Oh,
of
so there
changing.
was it was a
Yeah.
USDA.
So it was
Okay.
like the last week we were all working together. We just also put together that second
Okay,
USDA
all
one.
right. And when they received word that they got the funds, then Michelle contacted me to go be more detailed about completing the sale. That was about, I don't know, September, I think, about September. So then in the last few meetings, we have worked with the Port Commission on discussing process. I had to learn the process. The only land we've sold in my time here has been surplus, and this is different. This isn't surplus. This isn't land we're saying we don't need. This is land that we're saying is going to be used for an economic development purpose in an industrial district. So we worked on process, met with the port attorney several times. She is the one who pointed out we had to have a second appraisal. So we did get a second market analysis done by a real estate broker, which is allowed by the RCW in December. And then set the public hearing date. We advertised in the Dayton Chronicle the last week of December and the first week of January, and a packet of information was placed on the port's website. And that leads us to tonight, which is holding the required public hearing. And I have prepared a draft resolution based on discussions we've had in the meetings on findings of facts and other things the commission might want to consider before making this decision, and any kind of conditions they might want to put on the sale. So this is a draft resolution. It doesn't mean a decision has been made, far from it. It means this is based on the discussion we've had, and the commission is going to hear from the public, their support, concerns, whatever it may be. Okay, have I missed anything?
And the draft will be resolution 2023
-1. Yeah, that was my mistake of the number.
No problem. Okay, we're at 5 minutes, 2 minutes to 5. We'll wait until that moment.
Sorry, I needed to add 2 more minutes of blah, blah, blah.
As they do in the public, like this.
Keep talking. Jenny, is the draft available for public acknowledgement or like of observation, or is it just for you guys?
The resolution? Oh, sure. Yeah, it's on our website. I could put it up. I actually have it on the screen if you guys want me to share. Or I can go make copies. Does anybody want a copy right now? Okay. Will you go? Yep, I scratched out the number at the top. Just go make a few copies.
Just 2-minute filler.
Yeah.
How many would you like?
I'll just make like 10. Better her than me trying to squeeze through there, right? Let's see, I need to make it bigger. I still only see part of it. I'll scroll through in a second.
Also not sure if it matters, but it's technically Table Rock Meat Co. Like legally on the.
Yeah, and I knew that. Did I not put that in here?
It's on the bottom whereas.
The rough weeks.
It's on the-
That's because that's what I call you in my head. Okay, I will fix that.
All right, being 5:15, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for any comments from the public on this proposed sale of property to Table Meat Rock.
Table Rock Meat
Meat
Company.
It is, we'll have comments, 3 minutes per person. And I'll open it up to the gallery. If there's anyone who would like to make a public comment, I see one hand. Go ahead, if you could name me,
3 minutes.
if you could state your name, please.
My name is Scott Marinella and I'm a resident of Columbia County. The statute specifically indicates that the property could be sold if it deems it to be in the best interest of the district and the people thereof. I do not believe that this is in the best interest of the district and certainly not in the best interest of the people thereof and should not be approved by the commissioners. There are significant issues and discrepancies with the proposal itself and a lack of due diligence by Table Rock and the port on assertions made. Section 1, 2,000 head of livestock each year. That equates to 166 plus animals per month, 38 plus animals per week, approximately 6 animals per day. That is, the plan is assumed to be built in a rural district. That's set forth in the project and the proposal. And it is far from a rural district when it is directly downwind from the entire city of Dayton. It cites the information from a study nearly 20 years old. Table Rock's been in existence for less than 5 years, certainly not the 40 that's touted. The animals to be processed are identified as cattle, bison, hogs, lambs, and goats. None of the animals currently processed, 5 animals, are held in town. The proposal would increase in phase 1 to 25 animals per week with those animals held in town. Further, Table Rock's figures equate to approximately 1,300 animals per year, whereas the totaling the trends that it quotes, that would equate to 1,820 animals per year during this phase. And that again increases the number of animals that would be held here for processing. During phase 2, those numbers increase to 40 animals per week. All of those animals again would be held in town. Again, its trends indicate that it would be 3,172 animals per year, not the 2,080 that's cited. Phase 1, offals, excess, and waste stored in cooler, quote, until picked up by the cleaning crew and disposal at the local landfill. That disposal by the local landfill is mentioned throughout the proposal. We do not have a local landfill, and Columbia County Transfer Station does not accept any animal waste whatsoever. The county contracts with Finley Buttes for its landfill purposes. Again, in paragraphs 4.2, 4.3, there is no landfill in Columbia County, and the transfer station does not accept animal waste. In the proposal, 4.4, the wastewater, including blood, feces, will treat it. There's no reports or statements that indicate that the city, its wastewater wastewater manager have been attached or provided? What confirmation from what proper authorities have indicated the use of the blood catchment unit to mitigate waste and water contaminants? There's no information that's been made available if this is the only information that's available and been provided to the court. Has DOE been contracted with the proposal? Currently, the city of Dayton's wastewater plant is wholly outdated and needs significant improvement or replacement. The proposal outlines a significant increase in use of the plant. The USDA is dropped throughout the proposal.
Excuse me, are we? I mean,
Yeah, I didn't start it till he'd already been talking, so, that, he can have another minute.
okay, sorry.
The USDA has been dropped throughout the proposal. First, there is no set inspections of the facility. And in fact, the new USDA rules allow slaughterhouses to quote self-police in place of external inspection. This will take the place of traditional external regulation by the Food Safety and Inspection Service, the FSIS. Dayton is going to catch all of the odor generated by the plant, which does not bode well for its citizens and downtown businesses. Odor is not controlled, supervised, or regulated by the USDA or the FSIS. They don't have that authority. It's all based on the local ordinances. The city of Dayton has no local ordinance for odor. I'm going to disagree with comments that Jenny indicated, or else we've got a real problem with one of the proposals or one of the appraisers. Fringe zoning, the intent is to accommodate vehicular oriented and land consumptive uses in addition to commercial uses generally considered beneficial to the traveling public. This is quoted by Valbridge. Permitted uses on a fringe zone, fringe commercial, included but not limited to general warehouse, mini storage, banks, hotels, motels, and grocery stores. Conditional uses and
Thank you,
special.
Scott. I appreciate your comments.
All right.
Thank you. Can he submit comments?
Oh, of course, and if you want to give him longer, you can, it's just, I don't know how many people want to talk, so, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, of course, of course.
We may come back to you, Mr. Marinella, if there are no further comments here. Are there any other comments from the gallery? Yes.
I'm Aline Warren. You know my thoughts and feelings about the proposed slaughterhouse plan to purchase pork ground and build on Cameron Street. I am completely opposed to this type of facility being built within city limits. I want Michelle's business plan to succeed, but not inside city boundaries. Based on my experience at the December 14 port meeting, where you looked me in the eye and told me my input didn't matter and you were going to go ahead with the project, I'm going to call a spade a spade. Shame on you, port commissioners, for your lack of common sense. Less than a year ago, you heard and denied pleas from a broad scope of community leaders who were advocating construction and creation of a childcare center to ease the crisis of finding safe, reliable daycare here in Dayton. I know young single mothers who want to be employed, but cannot take jobs because there is nowhere for their children to be while they are at work. A child care facility would have allowed a substantial number of individuals in our town to come back into the workplace. And it would have been a number far greater than the new jobs the slaughterhouse will bring. Shame on you, commissioners, for not being able to see the forest for the trees. If businesses are closing because they cannot find workers, why play your card so you all support this trend? The child care facility ripple effect would have had an incredibly far more positive effect in our community than will the slaughterhouse. Common sense, of which there appears to be a severe deficit here, makes it a no-brainer as to which would be the right choice for you to have made. It is frustrating and eye-opening just how deeply your biases are affecting your commissioner job, to which you pledged to make choices in the best interests of our community. Your determination to establish the slaughterhouse within city limits is not in the best interest of our town or her citizens. Come back to reality and make choices that will promote and enhance our beautiful town instead of pushing her even closer to the edge of crisis.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else here in the gallery? Gallery, not a gallery, not a kitchen. No one here, thank you. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I guess I'm Glenn Warren. I mean, I'm all in favor of the Table Rock Meats, being successful too, but I just want to point out, even though it's a business park, all that stuff, there are far more residences just across the street along that whole stretch than there are businesses within your business park. So hopefully, you should respect those peoples too, that there was no slaughterhouse or anything smell. Plus, I know farmer raised cattle too, that, you bring animals in, they're gonna be coming in daily, multiple loads, and the trailers don't all catch everything. I mean, manure and urine can run out, they get picked back when they unload, and that'll be strung down the street. And I don't know if that's been addressed as far as, cleaning of the city street between their lots and the main highway, whichever way they come through, because it's a pretty short distance and stuff will be coming out, and the club has kids crossing the road and be walking and possibly the stuff too and things. So anyway, I'm all set for the success of the business. It's just kind of location, and I don't know if you have something in the Blue Mountain Station area, away from the residences more, that would work also.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes.
We,
Yeah, go ahead.
the development agreement for Blue Mountain Station specifically did, what's the word? Prohibits slaughterhouses. It's the first place we talked about. I suppose that could be changed, but it is a development agreement that was adopted between the city and the county and the port, so it's kind of it's a big process, but it's certainly not impossible. It would require a zone change.
Yeah, it sounds funny to be
Yeah.
not allowed out there, but in the city. it could be.
Trust me, I was surprised as well. I was very surprised when I realized that the fringe commercial zone in the city outright permitted meat processing. I did not. Well, I see Scott shaking his head, but that is what the planners are telling me, so, yeah.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes.
Am I allowed to make a comment?
Yes.
So one is that, just quick few things.
Please
One,
say who you are.
sorry, I'm Sierra Smith. I am one of the owners of the Rock Meat Company, and I have been working on this grant and this process since 2020, as Jenny said earlier. So just a quick few things. One is that Walla Walla, their USDA facility is in town. It is only a few blocks past that turn. You take the Second Street exit and you turn on to 9th. It is a few blocks that way. So it is right in town. So that's something they've dealt with, and we all, as a community, have used Blue Valley before. If we use it there, why not use it here? Second of all, the USDA does, like the regulations I was reading, they do control odor as part of their pest control guidance. So how they handle it is up to I'm not 100% certain on it. That's because when we get a USDA inspector, they will fill us in on all of that, exactly how they will be going about it, but that is something that is regulated. And then finally, there is another catchment unit that is used in the outdoor holding pens that will keep it away from the sewer system. So there will not be a huge difference between the water usage we are using now, because it's primarily for just cleaning the building at the end of the day. Other than that, it goes into 2 separate catchments, and we have been using a facility that is able to take that away. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Michelle Chown, Table Rock Meat Company. And as far as Scott addressed is the local facility for dumping, Walla Walla is considered local for us. They do take the offal and they'll dump it in Walla Walla. But we also have, what's the company called?
Rendering facility,
The
I don't know the company called. Baker.
We have Baker Commodities will come and actually pick up for us, and they haul it to Seattle and use it however they, use it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so sorry. I forgot one thing. I'm actually part of the Wolf Advisory Group, and one of our big projects we're working on right now is carcass disposal in Washington State. And it's a big, and you can see it on the Wolf Advisory meetings, but it is going to be a interagency committee with the Department of Ecology, Department of Transportation, meat industry, as well as the Department of Fish and Wildlife, because it is a issue across Washington State. So hopefully this actually won't be a problem much longer. I mean, it's going to take a little bit for it to get through legislation, but that is an issue coming to legislation soon.
Thank you. Any other comments from here? Yes.
Yeah, I'm Wayne Bell. I've been around here since the early fifties. And when I first came here, Darrell McCauley would butcher beef, but he'd go out to the ranch and kill the beef and leave all the stink out there. And far as anybody's been around animals, especially pigs, you don't escape the smell. They'll smell for miles. The wind's going the right direction, so other than the smell, that's what he he had a lot of good points there.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the Zoom gallery?
Let me stop sharing my screen so we can see if somebody puts their hand up.
If you could start speaking or raise your hand to be acknowledged. I don't see anyone there. Okay, so we have heard comments about being downwind. I think that's the most that I've heard from people, the odor being within the city limits. Of course, we have addressed here that it is authorized by zoning.
Scott Marinella disagrees with that. So
Well,
I,
so does your appraiser.
yeah,
I didn't hire Valbridge.
right,
I'm assuming somebody did.
we did, yeah.
Valbridge, in their report specifies the zoning
Mhm.
at page 9. And it does not allow that outright as a permitted use. And furthermore, as a conditional use, it says included and are not limited to dismantling or salvaging vehicles, equipment parts, communication towers, including phone, radio, and TV, and governmental equipment repair and maintenance shops. That's what it says in the appraiser.
And I hear you, but the planner, the actual city of Dayton is telling us it is allowed. So maybe the appraiser made a mistake, maybe he looked at old zoning, I don't know. But I mean, it's, the port is not the permitting agency, so that is really up to the city. So, and we have been encouraging, I believe they've begun the permitting process, but I hear you and we'll double check, but that's what, I mean, I have emails from the planners telling me it's outright permitted.
All right, so public hearing is over.
Yes.
At 5:33. So, commissioners. Sorry, I did have somebody on for 3 minutes. Commissioners, how would you like to proceed with this?
Well, I think we should just have some open discussion about it. I know that when it was first mentioned to me, when I came in and talked to Jenny about it, I know that my first two concerns is, was it the best location because it is in the city limits? And is it going to create a nuisance with the odor? And it's taken, a lot of questions, a lot of answers, and a lot of research and effort by Table Rock and myself to get answers to those questions. And I guess it's still in the back of my mind that is a little bit of concern. What happens on a hot day when you've got an abundant, extra animals and you got machines broke down and, things start to stink. I'm not saying that will happen, but if it does, how do we address the concerns and the phone calls and emails that start coming in? Saying, I told you it was going to smell. I really hope that we never have that problem. I really have a lot of faith in your guys' ability and what you do. I've been a customer of yours for my own personal animals at your shop in town here. And I've never even been by your shop and smelled anything other than the desire to walk inside and buy things. It always just smells wonderful. So I know you guys are taking care of what you're doing now. Granted, that is on a smaller scale, but in my mind, you kind of set the backdrop and and proving that you're, good stewards and good business owners and do take the effort and the time to make sure that things are clean and sanitary, because that hasn't always been the place in that particular shop. So I do appreciate your hard work and what you do to bring to our community and make sure that you are sanitary and clean and don't create a nuisance. But I would like to know, what happens if things get out of control on a temporary basis.
So I've been researching this for years. I have gone to multiple different USDA facilities, talked to multiple different owners. Not one facility did I smell anything about it. It didn't smell. A couple of them, we couldn't even figure out where the animals were being held.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons that I'm comfortable with putting it where we suggested. As far as like the manure coming out of the trailers down the road, I hauled to so many sales with trailers full of cattle, and it never hits the road at those sale yards. You just don't see it at the sale yards. But I was telling Jenny, we're gonna try to plant trees. It'll absorb the noise, it'll absorb the smell, it'll absorb everything. Push come to shove, worst come to worst, we have straw bales. We will enclose where the animals are with straw bales. It'll absorb the smell, it'll absorb the noise, it'll absorb everything. Plus, we're washing everything down. If there's too many animals, we'll hose the manure into the pit that we will be pumping. So it doesn't go into the city. It will go into a different pit that will be pumped out.
Right.
But, we don't foresee that because they can be processed pretty fast on the inside of the building is where they'll be processed. And hopefully we can enclose where they're being held also,
Right.
which will help a lot of things. Just enclose it. So, but the straw bales around where they're housing is gonna, would be a big help. And we've got plenty of straw bales.
Is there any kind of manure removal that would happen?
That's where we're gonna.
Pumping.
So
So to clarify, it's a catchment, not a pit, but you'd be able to pump that because we'd be using water to push it into that catchment, and it'll be pumped just
Okay.
like a blood catchment.
Okay,
So they're separate catchments.
okay.
And then, so just back on what she's saying, to also say like it's not novel to have a facility like this in a city. So we're not the first, we won't be the last, there's plenty of predecessors to us. They were leading by example and doing what they're doing and using the USDA guidance to help preserve the community.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, one other question, there seemed to be some questions about the number of animals that you guys will be doing. And I really hope you get up to the upper numbers quickly. I hope you guys have success if we're able to get this to go through. And if we all approve it and agree with it. But before we get to that point, what happens when you guys get to that upper number? Are you gonna start turning people away, or do you have plans for expansion, or?
So I believe I can answer most of those, and Michelle stop me if I need to. So I did this part of the grant. In addition to Paul, I was helping him design these numbers. So the numbers, why there might be some discrepancy, is it is all estimations depending on a variety of variables, including number of employees, how efficient we can get, because employees are human, so everyone can range, as well as the final number, which is the capacity of the building itself.
Okay.
So there is a capacity based on cooler capacity, because we're fans of holding the animal carcasses for a certain time frame in order to increase tenderness of the animal, depending on the breed, and then also depending on how many number of each species, that depends on cooler space as well. So there is quite a variety that goes into the quantity overall, which is why there might be some discrepancies, because it does vary quite a bit. So there is an upper end, which is the limit of the building itself, and I believe that we're stopping at that point, as far as I know. As soon
And
as
what
that-
is that number?
It depends on the cooler. So we have a set number,
Okay.
a set space of cooler that's in there, and every cooler, depending on the rails, depending on how the animals lay out, that all can vary slightly. So there is a limit. It just is gonna depend when we get there. If we're slaughtering large animals all the time, that's just what we tend to get. Like, let's say that's happening, we're gonna have less animals. If we're slaughtering smaller animals, we're gonna be able to have more, depends on the capacity of what employees are there at the moment. There's just a lot that plays into it, but there is an upper limit. And we won't totally know that till we're in it, but there is an upper limit. And then once we're there, we'll stop.
And when we hit that limit, we schedule further out
Right.
on the schedule.
Yep.
So we don't turn people away, we just schedule further out.
And similar to our current practices, we have a cancellation list, and so people who want to get in earlier, we put them on a list, and then if something happens, then they're moved up. So similar process.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Johnny.
My comments are the same as throughout the process, legalities, make sure that indeed that we can do that, working with the city, with the county. Making sure that we're following the guidelines that are set there, that the legal purposes of it. I hear the concern about the odor, and that would be probably my number one concern, as far as in how to mitigate that, in the event that, but with all the other positives that go with it, I'm looking at it going. The other thing too is local. I may have more concern if it was somebody that wasn't from Dayton. Loves Dayton, wants to, doesn't want to diminish the process in Dayton. I may look at that a little more and say, okay, what's the value in this? Making sure that you guys have value in your building your company, but maintaining the current value of our small community at the same time. How do we do that together? And I think there's an avenue for that. Yeah, contingency plans probably need to be made. What if, there is a breakdown and we just say, well, we can't do this right now. Whatever it may be, get that fixed up, make sure we take those mitigation strategies seriously. The cleanliness, the FDA process, and if you're committed to that, and that's where you want to be and have that upper level of it. And then sustaining that, coming in and saying, yeah, this is what we want to do, and doing it for a year or two, 10 years, 15 years, where's that look, down the road? When maybe the excitement's out of it, maybe it's not, hopefully it's still there, but I've seen those things happen where, we don't want to diminish them. So putting some strategies in mind to make sure that stays pristine as possible through the process. And then maybe just being able to listen as we go through and research and development and go through the process. If there are community members, if there's other ideas down the road, if there are things that do pop up, whether there is a bunch of debris from the street down there, how do we manage that? And just kind of be good stewards of, all right, we understand, we can hear both sides, but that's really where I'm at. Legality, making sure the city's on board, making sure the permitting, the planning, all of that is legit. Then I'm on board. As far as that goes.
Okay. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting two different bits of information here. At the meeting in December, we addressed the fact about rodents and flies. And we talked about the straw bales being a source of haven for that type of creature. Also, I was told that 5 animals a day was going to be where things started. 5 animals a day is easy to keep up with. If you're getting to 40 or 50 a day, there's going to be odor. No question asked.
I don't know that there was ever said that there would be
40
40
a week,
days.
my apologies, but there's still gonna be odor.
There-
I'm getting very mixed messages between the meeting in December where I was promised and assured that things were gonna be one way, and tonight it's completely different.
Right.
Something's wrong. There's a rat in the haystack somewhere.
So the proposal that I read, as you said, in phase 1, there would be 5 a week, going up to 5 a day. And then phase 2, and again, we're talking animal units, not animals. And that's probably why there's some confusion as to the number in that chart, why it's so different. An animal unit, Scott, is 1,000 pounds. And so so that would be an adult cow, an adult beef animal. So then when you're talking about sheep and pigs, there's that conversion of 4 to 5 animals to make up an animal unit, because that's not 1,000 pounds. That's why the numbers in the chart are so different.
Well, the number in the charts also says it's on a per month basis.
Well, it
as
says,
opposed to
it says
an
per
annual
week.
basis.
You're right. The chart is incorrect. It says per week, and that should be per year. So yes, granted, I understand. Sheesh. Sorry about that.
Process.
Okay. In regards to this proposal, I feel that it meets two of the strategic goals of the port for economic development and the job creation, along with the management of port-owned land to be put to a business that is for economic development and job creation. I have some concerns, as has been mentioned, on the odor. And again, obviously, you would do your best to ensure that the odor is kept at a minimum. Is there such a thing as a monitor that reads? Okay, someone had mentioned to me that there was, and somebody's knows, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll look into that and I'll bring that up.
Can I comment on odor as well? I would like to mention that a lot of the odor associated animals is the living space of an animal, and these will not be living there, and it will be concrete floors, which is entirely different. I'm not here to say like there's gonna be nothing at all. I'm here to say it's be way more manageable than a feedlot or a housing facility, especially like pigs. It is where they live, not inherently the animal itself.
Right, as I understood, there would be no animal kept there for more than 24 hours. So that would,
And nothing's fed, there's no
That's correct.
bedding, there's no
Okay.
food, there's no.
all right.
Just water.
But iron in blood smells,
That's internal.
and that's not gonna get
It's not
outside.
in
at
the
all.
building, it's in the catchment,
It
yeah.
would, there's no way it would get out.
It's killed in a building with closed doors and it's caught in a catchment. And then from the catchment, it's pumped straight into another vehicle.
Okay, all right, I have a concern about the water quality, both from the Department of Ecology and from the city of Dayton. As was mentioned earlier, there isn't anything in here that addresses the impact to the water treatment plant. You know, as you are increasing the number of animals killed, what impact that's going to be. I think that's something that you would have to obviously take that into consideration before even, I mean, I would like to see that addressed even before we would have approved something like that, or I should say contingent on the confirmation from those two entities, the city of Dayton and the Department of Ecology, to ensure that the water going into the treatment would not have adverse effect on the water treatment plant or ultimately the Touchy River where everything dumps into. So that would be my concern. The zoning issue, I have a concern on that, and I don't know how we would verify, but again, from what you're saying, Jenny, the city of Dayton agrees that the zoning is acceptable.
Yeah, yes, that, I was just gonna see if I could find the email. That's what I'm looking at. But yes, I have been told that it is, it fits the zoning, but that the city is going to require a site plan. Do you remember the words? A site plan and a sewage and a plan for how it addresses the wastewater treatment plant. The city is not gonna let it, they don't want, that's their biggest concern. And I guess concern is the wrong word. It's more about that it needs to be addressed. Yes.
So I agree with addressing all this, and that's definitely what is happening. I would also like to clarify that the majority of the water that will be used goes into those catchments, which will be pumped. So it's the slaughter process as well as the cleaning of the outside pens that take up the most amount of water, and the treatment will be, it's not going into our sewer system. The only thing that will be going into our system is toilets, sinks, and then the cleaning of the facility at the end of the day, which we already are doing. So obviously there will be a slight change on floor space, but it's actually not too far off from our current floor space.
Mhm.
So there won't be a huge difference in that realm of the treatment facility.
Okay.
So here's the email. This is from Dina Martin at the county. She's writing to recap her verbal conversation she had with Michelle. The parcels under consideration are located in the city fringe commercial zone. Meat processing is a permitted use in the fringe commercial zone. The city does not have a definition for meat processing. However, I found the below definitions on Law Insider. Meat processing facility, a plant or premises where animals are slaughtered for human consumption or where meat or meat products are processed, but does not include rendering plants. Meat processing, processing livestock into meat products or processing meat products for sale commercially. I visited briefly with the mayor, the clerk, and the public works director, and all agreed that meat processing could include slaughter. Unfortunately, the existing code does not have any permitting specifics for such a use. Therefore, a site development plan would need to be approved and a user agreement established with the city. It would be ideal to have a preliminary meeting to gain a better understanding of the proposal and to understand the concerns of both Table Rock and the city to head off potential problems. And At this point, you have shared that the proposed facility would not house more animals than what could be processed in a day, which could be the equivalent of 4 to 6 cattle. You also wish to process pigs, sheep, goats, buffalo, and possibly chickens. All blood and unused animal parts are hauled away by a rendering company. Whatever additional information you can provide would be helpful.
Okay.
So that was in November. That was what told me,
This was accepted.
yeah. Even though we are not the permitting agency, you know, we needed to make sure it was allowed.
She was
so.
able to meet with everybody that she needed to talk to because they just happened to be in the same room when I called her, so.
So if we, the commission, were to approve this resolution and something went wrong with the permitting, they weren't able to open, then it just basically nullifies everything. Is that how that works?
You can also put restrictive covenants in the deed. And that's
Yes.
allowed by statute, and I would recommend that some of the covenants that be considered. That no more than, which is what's been asserted by Cable Rock. The animals would not be on premises and held for more than 24 hours. Evidence of wastewater, waste. Disposal from the city and the Department of Ecology. Evidence of odor control, evidence of manure removal. All those things should be as a part of the deed and be covenants running with the land. And if they're violated, then essentially the property comes back to the port. And there certainly could be other things considered in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you for those thoughts. Go ahead.
I would also say number 4 on your resolution on the back where it said that if it's not used for its intended purpose, that,
It reverts to us. That's in the
Yes.
RCW.
so with that being said, all of the concerns are controlled by the USDA. And so if the USDA shuts us down, we are therefore not using it for its intended purpose. I think that also is kind of covered in that statement because we have to follow all those have to be established and controlled by USDA guidelines or we are not able to operate. That's part of being USDA is that you're controlled by that USDA inspector. So I feel like if that helps anyone, that is pretty much covered already.
Do you see any issues with if we were to add the covenants that Mr. Marinella is proposing? I mean, you're saying you're gonna do them anyway. Would it cause trouble to put them in the deed?
As far as I'm.
The only thing
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
concerned about, like, if something happens, like at all, I don't wanna, like, let's say one person says, hey, I'm literally leaving for something, I kind of dropped it off 36 hours ahead. If there's anything like that, I don't want to have the entire facility removed from us because of helping customers or just something random, like if something happens momentarily and we get it fixed immediately, like life happens.
Right, there's gonna be a certain degree of grace built.
Yeah, and so my only concern is that like if we have zero grace built in, then if anything happens at all, no matter how hard we try, we're gonna have our entire building and our life we've poured into it taken away from us.
Right.
That's my only concern.
Mhm.
It's not that I disagree with any of it, it's just that life happens.
Yes.
USDA, I spoke with them yesterday. And the USDA, as far as odor control and whatnot, they're only concerned with regard to any pollutants going into the product, the food product itself. Not what you're gonna be doing as you sit outside at a restaurant in Dayton and have the stench come through there. That, and I'll tell you, I lived in Ellensburg. And Ellensburg smelled like a pile of manure.
But that's a feedlot though.
Mhm.
That was a
Very different.
feedlot.
Well, except you're gonna hold animals here now. It could be, well, we were telling them it's 24 hours is what's been told. And that's in the information provided.
Correct.
But now we need the little fudge room and we need to do this and I think that there are issues in regard to that and, you know, you gotta be responsible.
Yes.
And covenants with the land would be the least of the worries, but and certainly the proposal itself in the body, it says that this is more appropriate for a rural area. This is not the proposal for a rural area. It's a proposal for the city of Dayton because it's in the city set limits.
That's a good question. So I guess my thought is, I've always considered Dayton to be a rural community.
Yes.
I mean, it is a city. Yes, granted, there are city ordinances and there's an established city government, but we are a rural community. We are not Seattle. We are not even Ellensburg. Well, I don't know. I might consider Ellensburg rural.
They have a college. Yeah, they're private.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm getting at.
No, I don't. The city of Dayton is a city where there's a residence, there's yards, they're stacked next to one another. It's no more than, granted, it would be a neighborhood in the city of Seattle. But it's still a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's still a
I
municipality.
understand what you're saying. It's semantics in
It's-
my opinion, but
yes.
yes, I agree.
I mean, you come from a big city and all of a sudden this is rural.
Yes,
Mm.
thank you. Yes,
I believe that rural is defined, I'm not 100% sure because I'd have to go back and look, but I believe that rural is defined as by population and economic output, and Dayton falls into that category.
right. I
I
think
think
it's,
Columbia County as a whole falls in that
I
category.
think it's 25,000.
I believe so.
Less than 25,000 population is
There's like a
considered a
number.
rural community with USDA. I don't know for any other purposes besides that, but for USDA, they consider 25,000.
But the cities have USDA facilities downtown cities.
Mhm.
Las Vegas has one downtown Las Vegas. I've toured it. You cannot smell. People are outside all over there. You know, the way they handle it, the way they process it, it gets done rapidly, even as far as like I've researched how the in Las Vegas to try to keep the smell down. Because when you're down on the main streets of Vegas, you don't smell that. You don't see it. It goes to a pig factory and then the pigs are back supplied to Vegas. But there is a USDA facility downtown Vegas that nobody even knows about. And you can't smell it, see it, know it. You don't even notice that the animals are coming in.
Okay, commissioners, would you like to make a motion on this, or are you ready to make a motion, or is there more
I
discussion?
think there's a little more discussion. I don't know. I don't see the issue of the odor is going to be a huge deal. I don't think it will be. I'm not opposed to adding some additional covenants to the sale, but I don't want those covenants to be so cumbersome or restrictive to where the business is afraid that, okay, if somebody calls in because they smell a cow, that they're gonna get their business jerked away from them. You know, so I want to make sure that, you know, the covenants that we do put in there are, you know, substantiated enough that we can, you know, verify that this is, you know, covenants for a legitimate issue, not something that somebody has a grudge and wants to complain about it. So I want to make sure that any covenants that we do add into this, that, you know, they're not overly restrictive and putting the business in fear of, you know, as soon as somebody complains, it's going to get taken away from you, because I don't think that should, you know, in any situation should be our first resort or our first option, you know, that we should try to resolve any issues that we have before we even start talking about taking somebody's business from them.
Agree. I think we need to do everything we can to both protect the entrepreneur and the city, and the residents. So, the balance in there where it's not, like I said, so incumbent, strict on it. But it said, hey, guidelines and due diligence. This is what we said we put together. The due diligence is this, and it's some stop gaps to ensure that we do this, you know, for peace of mind. And then what are the strategies that you for that? Say a complaint, what are we doing? This is what we do, this, and this, and this is what we're doing. Okay, looks like we're doing the due diligence, those type of things. That's where I'm at with it.
I just want to clarify, it would be the city who would be taking care of complaints, because we would no longer own the property.
Right.
Yeah, but so the important part is the covenants that we put in that would lay it out. So I don't really think the covenants are an issue. If we could just make sure they're not. I mean, it would have to be like multiple violations of the 24-hour
Correct.
rule or something so that there's not a, yeah.
Can I just clarify something in that 24-hour rule? When we say an animal will be on our premises for no longer than 24 hours, we mean absolute max. most of them will be on for 1 to 7 hours, more likely, sometimes overnight, but cowboys tend to deliver late, so when you get the chance to get out there after everything's already done. I mean, if drop off's at 11 and killing's at 5, that's not too long, it's gonna be on there. So when we say 24 hours, we do not mean they'll get there, we'll set a timer for 24 hours and then pull the
Yeah.
trigger. We mean
Yeah.
for up to absolute max unless something crazy happens, 24 hours.
Usually the animals come in at night and get processed in the morning.
I'll come in the morning too. People are
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead. Julie.
I don't want to see anybody back themselves into a corner that, you know, you don't tell animals when to go to the bathroom and when not to. And I don't know if you've been around goats. You can smell goats, even those little baby goats get on. So odor is a problem.
Thank you.
It is a big problem.
We will consider putting the covenants into the deed.
Okay, so I guess there's a couple of different ways you can move forward. You can try to. Because the resolution needs to be firmed up based on what you've heard tonight and the changes you want to make. Do you want me to work with the port attorney on taking the comments that we've heard, the covenants we're considering, and come up with language to improve the resolution and then consider it for adoption later? Or do you want to try to fold something into the resolution now and adopt it and have me work with her on the purchase and sale agreement? Somehow we've got to fold the language in, and I think I would appreciate having some input from a court attorney on doing
I
that.
would agree with that.
Yeah, I think that would be okay.
Okay,
Would it be appropriate then, once we get that, to possibly hold a special meeting to approve that, or do we have to wait another month?
oh no, I don't know. I'd have to check with her, because remember the RCW said something about a regular meeting? It was weird. It was almost like you couldn't have a special meeting, but I think that was for the public hearing.
I think
That
it was
had to be at a regular meeting.
Right.
I just have a question for clarification. Is this just for the sale and purchase? Like this is all within that first year or like the covenants that we're calling them? Is that for like a certain period of time? Like, can you clarify that a bit
The covenants would stay with the deed permanently.
permanently? Okay.
The RCW that addresses if you have not developed the property within 1 year, that's an RCW that says 1 year. We could make it longer in the deed,
Mhm.
but that's a state thing. That wasn't our wording.
Yeah, I was just wondering the how long.
But the covenants would stay with the deed. Yeah, they would. Yeah. But I'm not an attorney. That's my understanding.
So question, if things go south and the land gets sent back to you, do you purchase the land or you take it?
Oh, no, we'd give you your money back in that first year. You would get your money back.
No, not the
Oh.
first, like, just like 5 years down the road, something's going on. It's just not,
I don't know the answer to that. I need to find out. I don't
and
know.
then, buildings are on there and improvements have been
Yeah, I
made.
don't
and-
know.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
so
that.
if it's the covenant, that's just a question that would be
Mhm.
nice to be answered from.
Yeah, I do not know the answer to that. That is a good question. How do
Yeah,
the,
we need to find out exactly what penalty there would be for.
Not that we plan on that
deviation from
happening
covenant, you know,
by
because-
any means.
Right.
I think that's why we want to have the port attorney take a look at it.
For sure, yeah.
Make sure that,
Mhm.
that all those protections are in place. And they were doing it by the book.
Yeah,
So can we have a motion, or should I ask for a motion to table this? Jenny?
I would rather you make a motion and tell me to amend the resolution to include some of these items and then bring it back for approval.
Okay,
That's,
so
So I would move that we amend the resolution 2023-01 to address the concerns and items that have been brought to the attention of us tonight.
okay, we have a first.
second there.
We've got a second. Do we have all in favor, say aye. Okay, the motion is passed to ask the port attorney for clarification on some of the comments that were brought up.
And in the meantime, if the covenants are gonna be about evidence of a waste and odor plan and evidence of a plan with the city, then I would suggest you work on that in the meantime, while we work on getting this firmed up with the attorney, so that they line up.
See if I can find some information on a monitor that would smell something like that. I've never heard of such a thing, but I'll get back to you. All right,
All right, so is that, are we good?
so yes, we have done, let's say, policy.
Oh, my gosh.
So when do we anticipate, depending on, of course, it depends on our attorney schedule,
Mhm.
on what we can do that, but
Well,
what
I
timeframe we looking at?
would guess that if they are working on permitting, that nothing is gonna be done on their part before our next regular meeting. I mean, I don't know where you guys are in your process with the city.
That's,
Yeah.
more, that's.
Right, so I would not, I don't think they could have that addressed in 2 weeks. So I don't think there's a need to set a special meeting at this time. If something were to change, I could notify you.
Okay.
But I wouldn't count on it until February. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
All right, we're going to proceed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
who came
everybody.
in And made comments about this proposal. Catch it another time. Thank you.
In addition.
Yeah.
well, they don't want to stay in this way, so they don't want to listen to policy.
Yeah. It is. I'm gonna let my. Is what? I do right here. So I literally just looked up the Blue Valley. It is literally a couple blocks from that main turn. Blue Valley meets.
Is that on time?
I didn't want to.
Oh, okay.
There you go. It is,
Yeah, I know where I worked at.
perfect. So if you need the address for anything, it's one.
Corey, he's there.
How do you?
Yeah.
Corny's yields really well. It's
Okay.
1162 West Pine.
Would it be better to try to
How about-
rezone and?
Another example.
You're
gonna shut off.
No, it doesn't shut off.
Okay.
You can visit Virginia. Yeah.
Oh, it's not over?
No, it's not over.
Is there, yeah.
We can talk about it later, though, if you would like to. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I just, I mean, if it's that big of a concern and that big of a problem that so many people are upset about it. But again, the wind blows,
It's still upwind,
Still
but it's just
upwind.
more.
I
There's
think it'd
less
be more,
homes. Yeah,
there'd be more protection behind the hill as far as not getting the wind blowing.
we talk about it afterwards.
I just.
And I need to, one of these ladies over here is a planner, so I might have to ask her some questions about changing something that complex.
Call me.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we stay?
Yeah, you can stay. There's lots more meetings.
Yeah.
There's lots of meetings. All right.
Oh, Mark City was on, I think. Oh, yeah, they are both on. Would you guys consider? No, consider going down to the broadband because Mark and Kara are on, and then we can go back to policies. Would that be okay? All right.
And then also.
Okay, so we're going down to agenda item 3B, broadband. Item I, Dayton Community Broadband Project.
Hang on a minute, we got talking, I gotta,
Thank you.
okay. Okay. I was communicating with my out of town friends, okay. Okay, broadband, we are, ready to, accept the bid for construction, which is extremely exciting.
Yes.
Now I'm out of order. I've got to dig. So I sent you the materials and I do have Kara Rebold is on from Petrichor. Wave Kara. There's Kara. Jenny. Mark Kennedy, who you know from Zero DB, who did design. And then Zach Coleman. Is that correct? Zach is also with Zero DB, a different, because construction is a different department. So they are all on tonight. And so we had quite a few companies that were part of the pre-bid meeting and just ended up with the 3 bids, but apparently that's not bad, according to what I hear. And as you can see, two of them were quite close. One of them was not even in the ballpark.
Like double.
Yeah, so, but it was pretty amazing how close the other two were. And so 0 dBs was the low bid. And the number that I gave you was with, tax. I'm sorry, since we're out of order, I have everything in order, and so now we're out of order, so. I don't even know, I don't even have the number in front of me until I find it here. Thank you, yes. What is it? Yeah, 1,881,800 before tax, and with tax, 2,039,871.20. And as I told you in the packet, Kara has been doing a lot of broadband projects, and we knew that, and as you have known from our fiber prices and stuff, things were gonna be higher. And we were actually invited by the state broadband office to apply for what they're calling match. They have some federal funds, and they would match any other federal funds that we had received in order to try to make these projects whole. And so there's an upper limit to what we can get, but we did ask for, it was north of 700,000, and they quickly approved it. It took about a week. Kara and I were pretty thrilled, weren't we, Kara?
Always happy to see money.
And so luckily, so then you're holding your breath, hoping that the bid, because that was before the bids came in. So then you're holding your breath, hoping they fit, and they did, it fits. So, and it would still give us a little breathing room, not a lot, couple 100,000, sure. So there'd still be, plus we still have our original contingency. So we've got the budget laid out, and there are always unforeseen things that happen, but it is a good number. Sure. So, Kara, did you want to say anything about the bids and looking through them and what you thought?
Well, it was good. You had your required amount of bidders. That's part of the federal process. You followed all of your federal procurement rules and port rules. And you got some good firms. I've actually worked with all three of the bidders that you've had on different projects, and 0 dB is just finishing up a project in Pomeroy, actually in Petaha. So you got a great company there that's really familiar with the area, familiar with your pole owner, and in past projects has done a real good job in working with the city and all of the folks involved outside of not just the port, but the local entities on locating utilities, any of those pieces. And I think you're going to be really happy with your end result here. I know you select the lowest bidder, but I think you're going to be really pleased as well. You're getting a good company to work with.
Good to hear. Thank you. And then, yeah, so that's the first section. And so if we want to finish that up, then I'll just have a little bit more on the project. I want to talk about public meeting and some other things. But if you want to go ahead and improve, this is a lot of money, so I need formal commission approval.
Okay, we got it.
Jenny cannot decide this is it.
All right, can we have a motion to accept 0 dB's bid, which fell within the revised budget?
Sure, let's spend the money. I'll move that we approve the DB bid for the broadband project.
Second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
I was actually pretty pleased with, I was nervous about it coming in. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I was actually super pleased with
Good,
where
good,
we were at with it.
Good. Me too. Me too. It's been great working with Mark. We do want to have a public meeting, and we've waited until the contractor was chosen. So we want to do it sooner rather than later, so the public can come and ask questions if they want. We'll invite the ISPs to be there so they can talk to the public. Just a good way to, because it's not always easy to explain. I have to tell people like 5 times how this is going to work, the highway and the service. And so we would like to do that. And I would actually like to send something to every household. I would like to really cover the town. So I need a little time, but one of the dates, it looks like Kara said it would work for her, would be January 26th, which is a Thursday. I checked, there is no basketball, no high school basketball. There's no city, county, port meetings. So I'm thinking an evening meeting. So if that date is okay with you all and you all, I could get started on an invitation that we could mail to the household.
It works for me.
This is my thinking hat.
Your calendar.
And you guys don't have to be there, but I would say you to be available to be there if you know,
I'm good.
okay.
I believe I'm good. There's a chance I may be out of town also, but 26 is fine.
Okay. And what time of day should we do this? Do y'all think? Like 6 o'clock,
Mhm.
earlier, later? Kara, what do you think?
Oh, I'll come whenever whatever
Okay.
works for your community, honestly. I mean, if we're gonna do it, we want people to be able to attend, so.
I would say 6. I think that sounds
Make a
good.
time.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you. All right, so then the only other thing I wanted to mention is that Charter Communications has submitted a request for franchise agreement to the city of Dayton. And in speaking with Kara and Zero DB, the contractor does have concerns about the potential for 2 companies working on poles at the same time. Because they're afraid it could raise costs because of having to stop and coordinate, also finger pointing, who did this. We have shared our concerns with the city. I don't know if legally they can delay, say, yes, we approve your franchise charter, but you can't start until later. That would be probably optimal. But just so you know, we have shared that concern with the city.
Okay.
Not sure what will come of it,
Right.
but we've shared the concern. Just because the timing, I mean, where were they 10 years ago? Right. We would have been thrilled, and I also have some concerns about community confusion. So, after all this time, but so that the public meeting will probably help with that,
Yes.
because we can explain that,
Okay,
okay?
right, thank you.
All right, so do you guys have any questions for Kara or Zero DB?
No, I don't think so. I was really happy with the bid price and
Good.
then this is going smoothly.
Mark or Zach, do you want to say anything? Congratulations.
Yeah,
guess.
thank you. We're excited to get started, so.
Yes, very much appreciate it. We're really looking forward to this project.
Thank
Good.
you.
We are too. Thank you.
Looking forward to working with you.
All right, well, thanks you guys for joining us.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Jenny.
Good night. Bye,
Good
commissioners.
night.
Good night.
And I guess the only other thing, I'll talk about the rural broadband planning just a little bit. This is the concept of moving further into the county, which becomes expensive and difficult. And what do you do?
Mhm.
And both the state broadband office, they have offered to do what's called a rapid design study. They're offering it to every county. It's free. So we said, yes, we would like that. And then WSU Extension is entering this arena. They have federal money to help. We wouldn't get the money, but they have money to help counties with rural planning. So we have what is called a broadband action team. And so that team is meeting this Friday. And it's some partly in person, partly Zoom, and the WSU Extension folks are going to join the meeting. And we're going to discuss how we would plan for this in Columbia County. Because it would be more like, it's has the potential to be more like hybrid systems because of the cost of taking fiber to everyone's
Right.
house. So this is going beyond anything we have money for. This is just planning. The states really want communities to plan.
Mhm.
And
So-
they are taking care of that
Yep. The-
financial cost
Yep,
of that.
they are taking care of the cost. So we are going to jump on it and say, yes, please help us. Marty Hall is gonna come to the meeting, and then the county planner. I've got someone from the city, the library, because they help disseminate information with digital literacy, helping people learn how to use computers. Who else did I have? The community council is on it. Hospital, Shane McGuire used to work in IT, so he's good to have on these committees. Anyway, we've got quite a group that's gonna participate. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so we can go back to policies now.
Okay, how do you want to do this? Policy by policy?
Yes, let's just go policy by policy. I'm gonna find my stack. Let's see, that is Table Rock meat, that can go over here. Terrible getting out of order. This is the workshop. Okay, here we go. So let's go one by one. Yes, so policy number one. Oh, first of all, I guess I would ask, did you have any suggestions for the policies that we did not make any suggestions on? If not, we can just move to the ones we're gonna work on. If yes, then we should just put them in the pile when we get there. Okay, all right.
No, I'm out of order. No.
So policy number one, this is the personnel policy. And the first proposed changes that staff proposed, Tracy did this with me, was on page 5. And that is to change some of the salary ranges. This doesn't mean somebody's salary is changing, it just changes the ranges for the future. They had not been changed in quite some time. And so that is the first, really the only substantive proposal on that page. So any questions or comments on that?
So my question on this is, how did you come up with this range?
Well, the executive director salary is mostly based on the port, they do that salary survey and they send us that document that shows other ports our size and what the salaries are and whether or not, kind of the responsibilities of the executive director. And also, I was at the top of the previous range because it had literally been a long time since we changed it. So I do this for the sake of the port. It is not, I will not always be here. You need a salary range that you can hire somebody to take this job, even if it isn't me. It needs to be enough that somebody will do this job.
So when that report is completed, the one that we received several months ago, do they take into consideration of a port where the executive director is the marina manager, the finance specialist, the maintenance person, the property management person, the grant writer, the economic development person? That's what
They don't, not really. You can see on that salary survey which ports have a maintenance director and which ones don't. So then you'd have to extrapolate from it the responsibilities. I've been a pretty low paid executive director compared to some of the other ports, but it's my town and I love it and I've wanted to work here. So,
sure.
but no, I don't think that they do. No, it's not. It's way more clinical. They want to know what's your budget? What do you pay? What do you pay for these positions? It's not that nuanced.
Right. So the reason I'm asking is when I started working for the USDA, I was in a small office. I had to learn every single program, be the expert in every single program, but I was not paid like, one of the larger offices that had specialists.
Oh, right.
All of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So I know what you might be up against as far as trying to come up with a value for all of the time and then everything that you do. So,
Well, and this is just a range, it's not, it's to give you a broad range to choose, because you guys set my salary, not me. So.
right. Yeah, you already have an established salary, like
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
How long has it been since that's been adjusted?
I would guess, I don't know. I actually don't know. Probably 3, 4, 5 years. I'd have to go back and look. I'm sorry. I don't know. I think we've made changes over the years. I just don't remember the last time. But I am at the top of this range now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the policies these are something we look at every year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. My only thoughts are, that's a pretty substantial jump right off the bat. It might make more sense to do a little bit more gradual.
Okay, sure.
Incremental increases.
What are you thinking?
I would suggest maybe a 10% increase to start with and maybe look at it again on an annual basis. These increases, it looks like they're about 20% on average, thereabouts. So I think a 10% interest to start with and look at it again, every year as we go through these policies, the economy and the economic climate changes regularly. And I know that 10% increase is gonna.
So that would be 55 to
80.
80-ish,
Yeah,
little
that's
more.
kind of what I was thinking is 55 to 80 to make it within the same spectrum that you're looking there.
Mhm.
Again, in Columbia County, I just don't feel that, for the amount of work that the ED is doing, I think it should be higher than a 10%. I would say 15% at the minimum. I mean, I just don't feel that those numbers are even.
So 15% higher than 75,000 would be 86,250. 10% would be 82,500.
I mean, that's my.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck on the 10% number, really. I think that's a really good starting point, that we can look at it again next January, and if it needs to go up again, and it's really simple to, increase it on a regular, progressive basis rather than doing a giant jump all at once.
I'd be on board with 10. That's another 2,500 more than what I was looking at, so I'd be okay with that. That's that 82.5, is that what we're saying? For
Yep,
top?
that's the top. Mhm.
So the low would be somewhere around like 57,
60,
60?
isn't that right? Didn't, oh no,
That's
yeah,
it. Well, it should
I
be.
didn't even do the math because it's easy, yeah.
Yeah,
Times 1.1 is, 6,500. Shoot, 60,500. I lied. Okay, well, that is fine. I just do want you to recognize that it isn't just about me, it's about replacement.
Right.
And I mean, the transit manager down the road makes about 130,000 a year, so you need to make sure you have a range that you could, if I get hit by a truck, you could replace. That somebody would do the job. All right, so we got 60,500 plus the 82.5. Okay, and then the next one was based on just inflation and wanting to have better for the office manager,
Mhm.
having a little higher end.
Right.
And minimum wage is now 15.74, so I didn't change the bottom end because it's still up there, but we have to remember that. And then the economic development coordinator, I was, having a salary makes it harder to hire somebody part-time if that's what we decided to do.
Mhm.
So I changed it to both, to a salary and a hourly option.
Mhm.
And I think I did the math so that the hourly fit the salary, just be dividing it into hours instead of salary.
Right.
so on the office manager one,
Mhm.
so the way it reads is salary range of 20, so is it currently 20?
No,
17.
it's in between there. I just made it a range.
It's currently 17.
No, the office manager makes more than 17.
No, I'm sorry. It went from 17 to 20.
Oh, it did? I thought it was 20.
Well, I see the opposite, it said salary range of 20 to 30, and
35.
it's lined out, and then 35.
Yeah,
Previously it was 20 to 30 and.
Oh, okay, you have the marked up version.
35, raising the top end.
Oh,
Leaving the bottom
interesting.
end at 20.
Oh, leaving the bottom end at 20?
I changed it. I wonder how you got that one.
So.
Don't look at me.
I did this from home, so it printed in the review, in the review.
Oh, okay.
form.
Okay, interesting. Yes. No, I thought it was, I didn't think I had changed that, but it is changed.
It was it was
Okay,
17. and it
Okay,
went
so
up to
apparently it was 17, so now it's 20 to 35, okay? And then, so any other, and then I just raised the other hourly employee up to 30, just in case. We had somebody of bigger skill, like a maintenance person or something, we don't, but in case.
I think these other ranges look pretty reasonable.
Okay. And then on page 7 is mostly, except for the one number, is mostly terminology. We used to have Columbia County administer the healthcare program, and they don't anymore. We go straight through Washington County's insurance fund. So change that wording. And then it has been a very long time since the amount the port contributes toward non-directors full-time personnel health benefits. It was 500. I'm proposing up to 750. And the county is over 900. And if we don't try to keep up, then people leave and go work for the county and the city. So,
I have no problem with that at all.
Okay.
I'd much rather give more benefits than anything else, so. I
Okay.
think that's
okay, so that's probably the toughest one, and those are the only changes I proposed. Any other comments? Okay. Small and attractive assets, number 2 is basically it's a policy, but it's a record of what we own. So those, when we updated the Cameron Street co-working building, that is what a lot of this was, and then we replaced the auditor computer last year, so we put this on here. It's kind of, it helps with the state audit and theft, you have to make sure you have things on the list, so that it doesn't walk away without accountability.
I have no questions on that one.
Okay. And then number 3, the credit card use, this is just to align it with the personnel policy, changing economic development from director to coordinator.
No questions.
Okay, then the sale of real policy, number 6. I sent it to you as we had proposed. I would not have been opposed to working on it a little longer and thinking about it a little more, but I'm trying to get it out the door. Seth did send, so you have a second one in your packet. We put it in the packet. That Seth suggested a couple of changes in addition to ours. So I highlighted them in yellow so you could easily see them compared to the other ones. Do you want to just look at mine?
Yes. That's gonna have to find it. Okay, for the purposes.
And that is, I think that was from the RCW, that first one, right, Seth?
Yeah,
The definition?
right.
Yeah. It just says a reasonable return means sale at an amount equal to or greater than fair market value. Which is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Right, and then I just added that, as it says in the RCW about selecting the best bidder and. If we're selling by negotiated sale or the best bidder described in RCW between 25-150 is sold by sealed bidder auction.
Okay.
So, basically what I did is I started looking at all the RCWs and the laws for special purpose districts to sell real property. And they're very specific about if we sell property that's in an industrial development district, a lot more vague when it comes to property that's not.
Very vague, yeah.
However, we still need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and not trying to sell property that, if we're selling it below value. Because then we can be, considered gifting it and getting in trouble that way.
Yeah, no, the reasonable, yeah.
So in the research I did and pouring through all the RCWs, the language I added is. Essentially, we have to have a value of the property, but there's multiple ways that we can get that, and it's not necessarily via an appraisal. It can be off of public records, previous sales, and information on the second one is the highlights. Information from the MRSC's website about the different methods that we can use to get values. So essentially what I did was opened up to the commission to be able to have more flexibility in how we find the value for the minimum acceptable price that we're willing to accept for a property, because different properties, of course, will have different.
Which we've done, like if it's a railroad siding, we don't go get an appraisal. It's just a more of a look at sales,
Mhm.
look at recent sales and come up with a number.
Right.
Usually it's the higher the value, the more likely you are to get an appraisal. Yeah.
So I just added the additional thing to clarify that we may not have to get an appraisal on everything, so we don't get in trouble for like the railroad siding for not getting an appraisal.
Right.
Previous policy said that we have to have an actual appraisal.
Right,
first.
okay,
So,
Okay,
Mhm.
so any thoughts or discussion on that, or does that look all right to everybody?
I think it looked good with the addition to the notes that Seth made.
All right, policy number 9 is simply changing the name of the bank. Home Street is now Bank of Idaho. Policy 13 is again a small and attractive assets list. This is Blue Mountain Station, and we just added a commercial microwave. for the kitchen last year. That was the only purchase we made. And then policy 14 is the user agreement for the kitchen and all the rules that come along with it. And I will tell you, one of the reasons these are important is that when a business is using our kitchen and they're getting a permit from the USDA or the WSDA, they require rules. And so people
Right.
will use our documents to submit to the WSDA
Mhm.
for the rules of the processing facility that they're using.
Okay.
And so, Tracy did a good job fixing up the one in the language regarding food handlers permits. Because they don't
Right.
call them that anymore, and where you get them. And then, Jeannie did suggest, where was it? Yes, last page, it doesn't say all the rest of them say attachment, attachment 1, 2, 3, 4, so she suggested adding attachment 5, which makes sense. And then the only substantive change was the per hour kitchen use fee. It has been $10 since we opened the kitchen in 2013. It felt like it's very low, and even though that's a big jump, I talked to Val, and we discussed it about some of the bigger users that it would affect, like Walla Walla Roastery and some of them. She thought it was completely fair to have that big of a jump. And it's still less than Walla Walla, which it should be, but it's closer.
What is
So,
Walla Walla's rate?
well, she said that a lot of them are 20. Yeah, 20, 25, depends on the facility. So, anyway, it is I wouldn't want to go any higher than that in one jump. I mean, that's a 50% increase, but they
Oh, that's
feel
margin.
like it's okay. Yeah.
When we had the food truck down in Florida, I think we were paying 25 an hour.
Yeah.
Back then, and that
Yeah.
was just for a much smaller space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, when we determined the first rate, we went to the Pasco Commercial Kitchen and looked through theirs and went through all their paperwork. And that was where we came up with our 10. It was less than theirs, but theirs was complicated. They had like a different price for the middle of the night, and
Oh, man.
we didn't really want people in the middle of the night. So, but I do think it's time to go up, so.
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree.
All right. Okay, and that is the end of the policies we proposed making changes to. If you don't have changes to the other policies, you can in one motion adopt policies 1 through, what was the end number? Do you remember? 18?
The last one was
Here it is.
18.
Yeah, if you want to do it that way, you can just adopt them as a unit. Unless you've got other ones in there you want it. Yeah, 18 is the last one.
All right. Do we have a motion to accept them with the changes?
So, yeah, I would move that we accept the policies 1 through 18, was it?
Yep.
As well, with the adjustments that I had sent in
And the adjustments that we had talked about. with
On the salary ranges.
salary ranges.
All right,
I second that.
okay, we've got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Okay, and then the delegation of authority, this is I don't know if you, Seth, have had a chance to hear about it at WPPA meetings, but one of those guiding documents they want you to have with executive directors. We developed it, I think it wasn't until about 2020, and I used Port Walla Walla, Port of Kennewick, and I think I had one more as samples. And we need to be updating it every year. So if I forget, I need you to remind me.
Okay.
And so in this. And so as I stated, we have to have some federal procurement rules. Kara from the Port of Whitman shared with me the ones that they're developing, and it was really pretty simple language like this. I got one from the Port of Everett, and it was like 14 pages and completely complex, and it scared me because it was literally listing what is in the CFR, which is the federal code. And so that means if the code changes, then your policy is out of date.
Yeah.
I was almost more in favor of just referencing the code. So this is a good stopgap, and I would like you to adopt it, if you please don't mind, so that we have it in place. But like I said about the auditor, I think we're gonna have to have a separate procurement policy. So at some point, I think we're gonna have to, and maybe what it does then in my delegation of authority is it just says refer to policy, refer to the policy, but I think we're gonna have to do it separately, so that would be my suggestion for the moment.
So, yeah, I read through that and I don't have any problem with putting that in there as a stopgap for now, but
Yeah,
I think you're probably right, that we'll have to have a more formal document in the future.
Yep.
In the meantime, I'd move that we adopt resolution number 2023-02.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept resolution 2023 as it pertains to the addition of federal procurement wording. All in favor, say aye.
Okay, I'll
Motion
send this, thank you, I'll send this around for signatures, so it's all in the back. Thank you, that was good, we went through policies smoothly,
It was nice having them.
way in advance.
Yes, because if we would have got them on Monday, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
You know, if I would have seen them.
Yeah,
So,
I hear ya.
so that,
It makes my Friday nights kind of late sometimes, but I actually prefer it myself though, so.
because it really gives us, those 3 or 4 days in order to do our due diligence.
Yes. Okay, that's it.
Were we going to talk about the capital facilities plan?
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh. Yeah, I should have had it down as something to adopt because it's really not a policy. Yes. So this is the same one that I proposed to you around budget time, except I took out the stage at Blue Mountain Station. Otherwise, I didn't change anything.
Like, what was it?
This is the capital facilities plan for industrial and commercial facilities.
It's not on the agenda, John.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna actually ask when we do our comp plan process, I'm gonna ask them if there's a better way we're supposed to be doing this. This is something we're supposed to adopt every year, so I have us do it at policies. But it makes more sense to do it near budget,
Yeah.
so that's something we can process, we can discuss with them and give us advice.
Okay.
So we make a motion to adopt these then?
Yes,
I've got discussion first. At our last meeting, we heard from RC and Robert McNichols about their plans for their company.
Mhm.
And one of the things that they mentioned, which I felt was acknowledged favorably by you, is the events that they're planning on doing out there. During the initial proposal of this, Jenny had suggested the building of a stage
Mhm.
at Blue Mountain Station for approximately 20,000.
which was, I don't know what the real cost is.
Right,
That was a
that's just
placeholder.
Exactly. 20,000 in our budget is pretty small. It would help both them and the rest of Blue Mountain Station in events for tourism purposes. So based on your favorable thoughts on, the events that they're planning on bringing in, I thought to add that back in as a possibility.
I would be willing to look at that when we do our next budget this year. I don't think it's gonna be necessary to have it up and going right now, but I think it would be something that once we get through the comp plan process and see how the plan for that property is going to be, that is definitely something I'd be willing to look at in the future, but I don't think it's necessary right now.
And again, it's just an estimate, if they're planning on doing this, it would be, I guess, as a port entity, a renter from the port. I would think that we would want to show some support of the events that they're holding, or they're hoping to hold there.
Right.
So that would be
Yeah,
my.
I'd like to see a little more where they're, as that comes to fruition, rather than, I am encouraged by the dream for sure. And I want to kind of see how that dream comes to fruition a little bit more coming through the next few months and into this tourism season cycle, spring and summer. But yeah, I do want to look at that, and I think that there's value in that. I just want to see what skin in the game for the individuals. And then what we can bring to the table to help the whole process. So, along with the budget and getting through the comp plan and stuff like that, I agree. But yes, it would be something that I would definitely take a look at that time.
All right.
Okay, that's fine. I'll make a note to not forget.
Okay, do we have a motion then to accept as submitted by through email?
Yeah, so moved.
I'll make second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the 2023 capital facilities plan for industrial and commercial facilities. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Motion passed.
Okay, so there's one item, oh, I'll just quickly, oh, no, I'm sorry, election of officers, sorry, I got ahead of myself, yeah, go ahead, yeah. So we elect officers in the odd years, okay, so that is up to you three,
Okay, so I'd be willing to continue unless there is someone who has a burning desire to be chairperson.
Well, I like him nominate Seth Bryant as candidate for a chairperson, if he would be willing to accept that nomination.
Yeah, I'd accept that.
Okay, so we have a person who's willing to serve to be elected. So motion,
gosh, I don't know it's,
we have a motion.
So I
it's,
nominated.
yeah, so I think you would make, somebody would make a motion to, well, what about secretary?
Well, then I would be next, probably.
You want to do them separately?
Oh, I would, yeah.
Oh, okay,
probably
okay,
so.
all right, so somebody make
I
a
make a
motion.
motion that we, is there any discussion with that? Okay, and make a motion that we take a vote on that nominee,
Okay,
for chairperson, for the next cycle.
okay. And I guess you would second.
So I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second for Seth Bryan to be chairperson for the 2023 fourth year. All in favor?
Is that for 2 years?
For 2 years.
Yeah, it's for that 2023, 2024.
Right,
Because the next time we vote will be 25.
right. I'm talking about this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, and this will take effect next meeting. We're not gonna change
I was
that.
gonna say, I don't even have a gavel to give you.
Okay, and then,
It's in the cover. Oh.
I want to add on that, thank you, for taking that reign.
Yeah,
In
for sure. You did a
2022.
great job. man.
I think you did a great job with it, for sure.
Thank you.
Especially coming in new yourself when you were doing it. I thought you did an excellent job. So I thank you for that.
I second that.
Appreciate it.
okay, how about secretary? Johnny is currently secretary.
Would be willing to step up.
Okay,
So I'll nominate myself.
I'll do better than that. I will nominate Jeannie.
Okay.
For that.
all right.
Any further discussion on that?
No,
No, I make a motion that we hold a vote on the nomination for Jeannie to be secretary.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Jeannie Crow to be secretary for the 2023 year.
To be voted on, yeah,
Again, 2023. All in favor, say aye.
yeah. Aye.
Motion passed.
Very quickly through the port assets, Rock Hill Industrial Park, we've had, roof leak, a little teeny tiny roof leaks at industrial building number 5. This is a first, this is a new one, so we've called Gillespie to come take a look. I suspect it is those metal roofs that were constructed before I got here. The gaskets sometimes get dried out and often we can, it's a leak through the gasket. It's one of the newer buildings, so I certainly hope it's nothing worse than that. We've had Jordan at Henderson Fine Arts down at the co-working building asked permission to do classes down there, which we said yes. We thought that sounded fun. Yep, and can't read my writing. Oh, the painting is complete at the USDA building. We took the quote from Tino's Painting and they did an excellent job. They were quick and they handled it well. So that is complete.
Great, thank
And
you.
they're satisfied?
Yes, yes, so far. I mean, they're big woofties from Spokane haven't come and looked at it yet, but there were all kinds of things they had to repair and it looks good, yeah.
That'd be
We'll
GSA.
find out, yes, GSA, we'll find out in July if they're satisfied.
Okay,
Nothing at the marina, nothing new. Blue Mountain Station, we did have a broken pipe in the ceiling of Suite B. This is the second time it's happened. I was very unhappy. And we called the same plumber who fixed it the first time and the same insulation company that fixed it the first time, because the first time I said, make this so it doesn't ever happen again. And so they are working on that, and Tim, the handyman, is working on repairing the sheetrock because it was wet.
so, okay.
Yeah, frozen pipe.
Remind me who Sweet Bee is?
Bardenby.
Oh, okay.
Bardenby Meadery. And then the railroad, the only thing I want to bring up is that Seth had asked for me to get a appraisal price. which I did in December, we didn't discuss it, and the guy is asking, okay, you wanted a price, what's happening? So I don't know what to tell. I told him I just thought we were gonna discuss it more during the comp plan. So what would you like me to tell him? Do you want me to tell him that? Thank you, and I guess that's the little danger of doing it before we're ready, because now he wants to know what the answer is, so, yeah, so,
I'd let him know that there's some procedural things that we have to go through before we can,
Okay.
get him on board, but
Okay.
that it shouldn't be too long if we're going to retain his services.
okay,
I don't anticipate it will be a whole lot longer if that's the direction we decide to go, that, we want to
Okay.
get value on it. so.
all right, I will ask him to hang tight then. I don't see why he wouldn't, but,
What's that?
Your thoughts?
I'm in the same boat. He's a business.
Yes.
We're the client.
Mhm.
So if he wants business, then we'll be patient.
all right,
So please, let me know to hang on.
okay,
Thank you. All right, that was under for assets, and I
Yep.
think we're at the end of.
executive director's report, I would like to do just a little bit there, if you don't mind. I did speak with a representative clump, Via Pulp today, and they are still going through the sale process of the facility, and they have good candidates, and they are doing due diligence, and so it all sounded pretty positive, so. Chief Springs is no longer serving lunch on Mondays and Tuesdays because they don't have enough staff. Dayton Mercantile has closed down Subway a lot of the time because they don't have enough staff. Mindy at Dingles is not well, and her family is running the store, and I'm not sure what's gonna end up happening there. Chamber tells me that the Dollar General is the store is who has made a contingent offer on the Ray's Drive-In space. And then the land, where it's located. And then we did hold our SEDS meeting. Jeannie and Seth were both there. And I sent in the packet for you the project list and the result of the voting list. It's unscientific, but those are the people that are kind of in the arena. And I can't put my hands on it, but I think the pool was number one by a landslide for Parks and Rec District and/or pool. Affordable and mixed use housing was second, and then childcare and broadband improvements were tied for third. So I think those are things we should probably be thinking about as we do our priority setting. Other stuff. There was a great presentation by Seneca at the SEDS meeting. It was really interesting. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, what they're doing now.
So in regards to the SEDS meeting, it's really difficult to gauge the direction that we should be wanting to point our ship. We're only getting 36 votes out of a community of 5,000 people. I don't know if there's a way that we can engage the community more and get more involvement. I know getting involvement is really difficult in today's day and age, but it would really be nice if we had a broader swath of opinions and guidance than just the votes of 36 people. I know that those votes are important, those stakeholders' opinions are valuable, but so are there other, 4,700 and how many people that we have. So I think it would maybe be a good idea for us to consider changing the format that we do that meeting at, and consider something that's more open to the public, maybe something more of a town hall type format, to where, we're not providing a big lunch, but we're inviting the community over, a series of, 2 or 3 meetings, and getting a good idea of the voting public about what they would like to do and the direction that they would like to see their tax dollars being spent. Because as it is now, we're getting this information and running with it, and it's really such a limited scope of what we're trying to accomplish. I don't think it does justice to the process. So I would talk about that.
We can. I would just remind you, though, that we live in a representative democracy, and that is what people are elected for.
Right.
Is to represent, because it's not really very, and I guess maybe the consultants can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a little unwieldy to think you're going to get the opinion of an entire community every year to drive that's what we do with comp plans. That's what we do with votes. That's the point. The people that come to that meeting are the ones that are actually putting in the work. They're writing the grants. They're fixing the theater. They're, you know, they're the ones that are doing the work, and that's why it's been a group of that. I'm not saying you're wrong in trying to get the broader input, but I don't think every year. I don't know about that every year, and I don't know if people need they need information to be able to make good decisions, and that's why elected officials are elected to gather information and help make
Right,
decisions, so.
and while we are
Yeah.
represented democracy and, you know, we being the elected officials are the ones that are, you know, representing, the ones that are at that meeting aren't necessarily the ones that have been elected to represent or make these
Right,
decisions.
right.
So,
Right.
you know.
Some
as
of them
an
are,
elec- Yeah, some are,
Yeah.
and yeah, I know some of the other elected officials there and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but. As an elected official, it's really important for me to be transparent and have a, you know, input from the community on the decisions that we make and directions that we want to go. And I know, and I agree that I don't think that's something we would need to do every single year.
Okay,
Um,
that would be difficult.
That would be difficult, but maybe, you know, a biennial or every 2 years or a process where we can get the community really involved, because in conversations that I've had with the community over the past several years, is it feels like they feel, the conversation I've had, I've gotten the impression they feel like they're being left out and not included in the process and not having a voice in the way things are happening and what's going on. So, you know, and I know a lot of that we'll address through this comp plan process, and hopefully we can really involve the community in this and be very upfront and transparent and honest and open with that. Because I would really like to improve the optics of the port in the public eye, because to some people, we're not the angels that we think we are, and we're not doing the best thing that we can with the port's money. I think it's important for transparency's sake that we involve the community as much as we can. I'd like to, you know, discuss doing it, involving the community with that process, you know, at least part of the time. You know, if you-
I will let these ladies lead that discussion. How's that?
Lots to say on that subject, and look forward, yeah, to your input.
Yeah, I hear you, Seth, and I want to do the right thing. I think you've figured that out by now, but I do. I'm driven and I want to do the right thing.
Mhm.
People, the only thing is people have to be willing to be involved, you know, they can't drag it out.
They have some ownership.
But I'm with you. Okay, that's all I have. So I think we should officially adjourn the meeting, and then we will, I think I'll stop the recording and then restart it. So we have a separate workshop recording. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm also requesting a 5-minute.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Credit.
Okay, so our meeting is now come to an end, so I'm adjourning the meeting at what did you say?
6:50.
57.
All right, and we'll 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. Okay,
Yeah,
and I will unrecord while we're taking a break. Pause. Yeah, this is. Stop.